All life, all biology is based on chemistry. All chemistry is based on physics. All physics is based on mathematics. So one could make an argument that there's almost a deterministic element to life. I tend to disagree that it's totally deterministic. I reference the book Mortimer J. Adler's 10 Philosophical Mistakes. But one claim I would like to make is that those who follow a strategy based on methodical, logical thinking are usually more successful than those who bluff and don't have a strategy laid out. My name is Mark Biernat. I'm a monetary economist. In this video, I want to explain why Ukraine's strategy will lead it to victory, specifically the president of Ukraine, his worldview, versus the president, well, actually the Tsar of Russia, and even the president of the United States. My claim is the president of the United States, I think we all know, has cards he plays. He puts it and expresses it in, let's say, poker metaphors. And in the words of Garry Kasparov, perhaps the greatest chess player of all time, the Tsar of Russia doesn't play chess, he plays poker. So those statements say that both the Tsar of Russia and the President of the United States have a large element of victory connected to bluffing and strategy. And my claim is Zelensky is more of a chess player. Evidence that the Tsar of Russia is a poker player is all the bluffs he made, starting in 2022 with his nuclear readiness to the dozens and scores of red lines he drew down. And yet every time they were crossed, he didn't follow through with the consequences. He broadcast a lot of bluffing, and yet the actualities on the ground and in reality don't manifest that he can back it up. And similarly, the President of the United States had made claims about a carrot and a stick, and that if Russia didn't come to this ceasefire, which it hadn't, because it was an extremely limited ceasefire, it would suffer dire consequences. It was really no ceasefire that they actually observe and respected. We'll see as this progresses. They're talking about a full ceasefire by Easter, and notice the symbolism. They're appealing to this evangelical base in the United States, this language. And me as a believer, as not even a believer, as a person of faith, more correctly, I kind of resent that manipulation. I would like to see peace. But I think all this language that the President of the United States uses is bluffing, because the leverage he could use is certainly increase the supply of defensive aid to Ukraine. Even if it was to cover the civilian infrastructure, he could certainly leverage a lot of economic pressure and sanctions, even if it was secondary partners like China and India. But he doesn't. So a lot of his statements, as we know, are not only bluffs, they're contradictory, and sometimes contradictory within the same week or sentence. And I don't need to go into the detail in that because ad nauseum, YouTube and the other bloggers have already covered that. But I think we can make a claim that both the President of the United States and the Tsar of Russia are bluffers and poker players, while Ukraine is a strategist. Now, let me just tell you about chess, including chess players are, in my opinion, it's not universally. I play modestly good chess, but I'm not a top player. But I've also never studied the game. I've never looked at databases. I've never read books on it. I just play for fun and to gauge my mental cognitive state at any given time in my life. When I'm under more stress, my ranking goes down. When I'm up, it goes up. I've won some tournaments and I play pretty well, and I've actually taught chess, but I've never studied it. My point being, if you are a true strategist, which is multi-level, which has an element of bluffing and human psychology to your play, but most of your play is focused on positional play, often sacrificing territory and gains strategically, even not calculating every tactical line and iteration, you'll do better. You'll win the game. If you have a focused goal, and you're willing to sacrifice maybe a little bit of this and a little bit of that for your goal, you'll win. And if you were to match a poker player versus a chess player, 100% the chess players win in the game of chess. And if you follow my initial claim, that's what life is. It's largely a game of chess and not poker. It's another conversation. In fact, a lot of chess players, poker players have tried chess and they lose. And a lot of chess players, like Magnus Carlsen or the Botez sisters, they play poker and they win. And I mean, the speed chess champion, all these guys, they love to once in a while go to the casino and they win. Not consistently, because nobody can win. My point is, nobody can win at the game of poker. It's a negative sum game. And that's why the President of the United States is grabbing for this land and playing this economic strategy, because he believes life is like a poker game. It's negative sum. If I want to win, somebody else has to lose. Adam Smith believed there was a positive sum. If you win, I win. And chess, we know, is a zero-sum game. For every winner, there's a loser. So when Ukraine is playing, even defensively, defense is okay. Petrosian, the Armenian world grandmaster chess champion, he was strictly defensive. And the people who played aggressively against him and pounded him said, they just wait for him to make a mistake. The problem is he never did. So sometimes this president of Ukraine, he's playing defensively, but he's always thinking about the end game and the winning strategy. And as you know, I don't update every single news item or news flash that comes out because it's already covered by the other bloggers. I try to be unique and give you a different perspective. When you focus on strategy and reality rather than bluffing, you're going to win in the long run. Because eventually when somebody's bluffing, like the Tsar of Russia, people see that as his strategy and it's already nullified. Even with the President of the United States, when you see him bluffing, strong and heavy with his words, eventually you discount these words because you know they're not followed through with action. Where Ukraine quietly and works in the background, and then boom, they're in this part of Russia. Boom, they're in that part of Russia. Boom, you wake up in the news, something else happens in Russia. Something turns over in Moscow. Something happens to their economy. They tend to speak quietly and carry a big stick, where their adversaries, specifically the Tsar of Russia, tends to do the opposite. It tries to be strategic, Russia, but it isn't. It keeps on getting discouraged, almost like the grandmaster of Petrosian. He just has this defense, stubborn defense that can't be broken. And in the long run, Ukraine is going to win because of that. Now, somebody like all the chess players in the world support Ukraine. Even these 40 grandmasters, these top players, top prestigious cream of the cream Russian chess players, they support Ukraine. There was one deviant, and he's no longer in the game. I don't know. I think he was like teaching kindergarteners chess or something last I heard. But he's out. He's not even in competition. He was just like a buddy of the Tsar of Russia. And there's more to the story, which I don't need to get into. So anybody with intelligence, and I mean true intelligence and scope, a tactical player, a strategic player, a psychological player, they support Ukraine like Garry Kasparov, one of the greatest minds in history. Now, the funny thing is, like chess, you say, well, if it's that tactical, you can't just plug it into a computer. Chess is an emotional game. I mean, the Botez sisters, they were, I think you get to know these girls. They have the mini skirts, the disco look, kind of cute girls. I think they're from Romania and Canadian and now live in the States. They were screaming and crazy. And the police were knocking on their door. Is everything okay? And they replied, oh, we're just playing chess. So chess is an emotional game. And that's the drama that we're seeing when we pick up the headlines every day. But if we can abstract and take a step back from the headlines in the news, then we can see that the president of Ukraine is playing a strategic game for the long term with a focused Russia go home. He's never not said the solution for peace is Russia go home. He's never not said that Ukraine's backing down from Russia go home, because that is ultimately the just solution. That is how we bring a true lasting peace, is Russia go home. at any day, at any moment in this time, even during this video, even when you're watching it, there could be peace because the Tsar of Russia could just say, we made a mistake and we're going home. But that's not happening because he's bluffing. He's played all his cards. And by my assessment, the president of the United States has played all his cards. You think so. You think he hasn't, but he has. Yes, he could make it more difficult for Ukraine. He could make it more difficult for Europe, but he doesn't have it in him to just follow through against Russia or fully against Ukraine. Either way, it doesn't look like. And so that case leads it to the president of Ukraine versus the president of Russia in a chess match. And I'm not a betting person, but I do know who's going to win. Ukraine will win because Zelensky has that just a little bit more smarts and strategic view and planning and knows how to keep his mouth shut when he wants to, where the president of Russia does not, and his mouth is not specifically his mouth, but as manifest by the propaganda coming out. So think of this not as a card game, not as a bluff. This is a very serious matter. And the serious chess players, they have a strategic vision. They know how to play tactically, positionally. They know how to make sacrifices, positionally withdraw. I've even been in a position where I only had a king and a pawn, and the other guy was about to make a queen, and I checkmated the king in the corner. And this is against a very high-ranked player. I don't know how I did it. It's not over if you just keep on trying. Ukraine will win. So that's my analogy that this geopolitical conflict in all its seriousness and gravity is a chess match which Ukraine will win when Russia's playing a poker game of just gambling and not thinking strategically in the very big picture. My name is Mark Bernard. I'm a monetary economist. Have a great day. Thank you very much.